All right. Hello there, health coaches. Today, we are going to talk about writing emails to your list. And I know that that can be a total drag, and we're going to talk about that. But it's really, really important because even in a world of social media and text messaging and DMs, email still works best for getting people to take action, not just think about signing up for your workshop or for your cooking class, but actually clicking the link and doing the thing and signing up, and not just thinking about hiring you as their coach, but actually booking a call. I have lots and lots of marketing channels in my business. I mean, I've been a health coach for 15 years, but if I could only keep one, right? Like I had to get rid of everything else. Like, what do you think I would keep? My podcast? Would I keep my Instagram? Would I keep like my Facebook group? I mean, you guys, we have like 14,000 people in the Facebook group. That's very valuable. No, I would keep my email list. That's how I would stay afloat in my business with only one marketing channel, like hands down. And in my experience, just recent experience, like I've seen that I can offer something like a free training or a free download or whatever on like social media for weeks and weeks and weeks, and will get 10 times more of a response from an email in like 3 hours. So I want you to stick with me today because this is one area of running your health coaching practice that I do not want you to overlook. And whether you already have an email list or not, I want to show you the best way to build your list in my new training happening this June. It's called Your Next 100 Email Contacts. And what we're going to do in this free training is I'm going to share the exact list building system that I've been using for 15 years. So definitely join us for this entirely free training. It's at healthcoachpower.com/email. I've actually never offered anything that's this focused before on list building for health coaches. So let's do it. Let's add 100 email contacts to your new or growing list. Again, that URL is healthcoachpower.com/email. As for today on the show, I've invited my copywriter, Daniel Jonas, to help us out and talk about making it easier to write those darn emails. Thank you for being here, Daniel.
Thanks for inviting me, Michelle.
So I'm sure some of my listeners are going to be surprised to know that you've been working behind the scenes, writing some of the copy that goes on around here. So we're going to talk about that. You've done lots of different copywriting projects, one in particular that we'll get to in a bit. But just so all my listeners know, my regular weekly emails that land in your inbox, those always come from me. Like, just in case you were wondering, those are always coming from my own fingertips. So I know what it's like. Again, 15 years of doing this. I know what it's like to look at a blank screen and go, what exactly am I going to write here? And I think that's a really common problem that keeps health coaches from sending any emails at all. So, Daniel, you've worked with various businesses, not just mine, and you know a lot about our health coaches. Why do you think writing emails is so challenging?
Yeah, so I think like we're all used to writing emails, but I think the emails that we're usually writing are just like for a different purpose. So they're trying to convey like information, and it's not about like persuading people into, as you said, taking action, signing out, booking a call. And I'm not sure if it's actually like part of any program, like health coaching program or like certification program. I think copywriting isn't taught really outside, not even in university. So nobody really knows how to write like effective copy. And I think you've touched upon like a really important thing, which is like, I think it usually starts with what should I actually write? That's a huge problem. Like, what should I write that people actually care about, that would people make them open my list, and then actually go through with it, click to book a call. And the other thing is like, how do I actually take that idea that I have and like structure it into an email so that people raise their hand? I think these are the two most common issues, not just health coaches, but people who don't write copy on the daily actually are struggling with. And I think one thing in particular is what's called the curse of knowledge, because probably like many people like who are in your audience, they they came from health coaching school, so they've learned a lot um, about health. They have like several certifications, so it's really hard to imagine how it feels like without having that knowledge, and that's like a real issue to come up with ideas, because your reader doesn't want to hear like they don't want to get taught things in email. They want to hear about you. They want to hear about like their struggles. They want to be heard and seen, or like feel heard and seen. And I think that's a big thing, like the curse of knowledge, because you have this amazing knowledge, you want to get it out, but people, they want to have it like bit by bit, and they'll get overwhelmed with too much coaching and too much knowledge, basically.
Right. Like we have coaches who've maybe gone through a hormone certification course or like a gut health course, and they just want to tell you everything they know. You know, you might find yourself writing like this, you guys. You're writing to your list, and you're it's almost like you're lecturing to a college, lecture hall, because you're just sharing information. But I think what you're saying, Daniel, is like, are we writing in a way that somebody actually wants to read it and finds it applicable to them? And also, like, we want them to be able to do something with that, not just read and learn, but like take that next step, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's an important thing. So very well summarized. I think that's the main thing. Yeah. So people don't care about, so they don't want, like usually you don't want to to have the background information why you're having that problem until like that it's certain hormone that's causing the issue. You want to get actionable advice, like how to get rid of it. And I think that's the main reason. So I think also to summarize it is to coming up with ideas while having the reader in mind. I think that's the main issue.
Yes, we're going to talk more about that. But you said that it's not just health coaches who have this problem. So tell us a
No.
little bit more about like different people and brands and industries that you've written emails for. And please tell us that everyone has this problem.
I can confirm that everyone has that problem. So as I said, probably like marketing coaches are a little bit better off. I mean, you have a strong marketing background, so you know a little how things are run. But yeah, I've been working in like several industries, from personal development. I've worked for like the Tony Robbins' team with Darren Hardy, so that's more in like in the business space, and also with best-selling authors like Anna David. And especially, which is interesting because that one is a writer, so she writes for a living, but
Yes, I
like
was just going to say that. How funny.
but writing copy and writing like books and novels and like, or even non-fiction books, is a completely different ball game. So like obviously she knows how to write, but like how to to persuade people to write persuasively, that's been a challenge as well. So yeah, it's not just health coaches who have that problem.
All right. So we can feel better, you guys. This would happen in any industry, basically anywhere that you're running your own business, because even larger businesses. I remember when I was working in advertising, and if you ever got yourself on Royal Caribbean's email list recently, they send like a bajillion emails. Somebody's writing those. That was my ad agency, and at least at the time. And they do it because it works, right? They do it, and they hire people to do it often because it's hard to get it right. So anyway, if you're like brand new to health coaching, or even if you've been doing it for a while and you're finding this difficult, like, of course, right? It's like a whole specialty area, but we want to make it easier for you, because I know you're probably not going to hire a copywriter like tomorrow. That's okay. I still write my own emails. You can write yours too. So, Daniel, we had talked about the idea that adding the right names to your mailing list in the first place makes it easier to write emails. And I thought maybe you could give us some examples of that.
Yeah, that's actually a good point, because I mean, there's one of many rules in copywriting is like if you're trying to talk to everyone, you're actually talking to no one. So the thing is, like, if you attract people from too many different like backgrounds with like different problems, it can easily get out of hand, because effective copy, or copy that really resonates with the audience, usually is centered around their problems or their state that they're aspiring, like their benefits, their aspiring state, what they want to achieve, like how, what they want to get rid of. And if you have people on your list who probably like are suffering from like side effects from menopause, or if they have some like if they're close to like burning out, these are two completely different people who want to hear completely different things in your email, and they will respond differently to the emails you send. So the best way to like write effective emails is to have like a really close more like a fan club of people who have the same issue. Usually, and that's really great when you're a health coach, these are usually the past yous. So most health coaches, as I've learned, usually had health issues in the past. So,
Yes, we
and
have.
that's kind of triggered like their interest for health coaching. So usually you're writing to like your past, like your 20, what was it, 2020, 2009 Michelle, for example.
Right.
Um, so yeah, that really helps, and that's key, just to have like a really homogeneous audience on your list. But I also think that it also comes to like having like the people with the right mindset on the list, because you can have like a list of 100,000 people, but if they're all just tire kickers or just here for the free stuff or just browsing around, like not really ready to take action, they don't have to like be ready to book like a private coaching with you right now, but they should have like the intent and to book some or join a course in the future. Um, because I think that's a pretty common saying that a list of 1,000 people or like 1,000 like genuine fans is worth more than like 1 million followers on Instagram, for example, because they want to hear from you. They are interested in your specific advice, your specific methodology, and they are ready to take some action when the time's right. And I think that's key. And that's also like um, so you should keep that in mind when it comes to like figuring out ways how to get people on your list, so you don't attract the people you don't want to work with, who can't afford you, and who never really actually want to work with you.
Yes, and we do that a lot as health coaches, because we'll set up a table like at some free event, like the town fair or at the library, where people go for free to get free stuff, and then maybe they take our free like energy balls or something that we're giving away, and yeah, maybe we get their name on our email list, but they're not really people who are ever going to take action with us. And they can come from all walks of life. Like, I'm thinking right now of a health coach I know who's saying, I'm still not sure if I should target men or if I should target women, and if it really matters. And I remember this email I wrote one time. It was all about this designer bag that I just bought, because I knew all the women on my list would drool over this bag. Like, I literally, like, people wrote me back being like, can you send me a picture, send me a link, I want to know what bag you got. They were really into this. And of course it tied into health, because it was the idea that like the bag always fits, whereas these women had clothing in their closet, every size up and down as their weight changed. So they understood the value of a good bag. But had I sent that same email to a list that was mixed, not only men and women, but let's say women who were 18 years old and 20 years old, could never afford a bag like that, it just wouldn't land. So it helps so
Exactly.
much to like really specifically know, like, if you told your audience about this one really cool thing that you just did, would they care? Would they want to see a picture?
Exactly. And I think I know it's tough, like especially in the beginning when you're trying to grow your list, to like just think about it, but like repelling people you don't really want to work with is as powerful as attracting the right people. So you don't like, I mean, you kind of satisfy a feeling that you get like 100 subscribers, 200 subscribers, maybe even 1,000 subscribers. But in the beginning, and I think even not just in the beginning, I think in general, quality matters more when it comes to attracting the right kind of subscribers. And for that, if you say like, hey, I'll talk about like the bags I've bought once in a while, and I don't have a problem with that, but some people do, but they kind of like, you don't connect with them anyway. So if they don't like your personality, they're never going to hire you for any kind of service anyway.
Well, that brings up a good point because I know we probably have some coaches who are thinking, well, I kind of have this mishmash on my list right now. So, like, how, like, do I write something that kind of applies to everybody? Because that's who I have right now. And I always say, and I think you would agree with me, write for the list you want, write for the client you want, write about the handbag, write about religion, write about like whatever it is that's important to you that you think is a thing that your ideal client would also resonate with. And the others, you know what, they got that little link on the bottom and says unsubscribe, and we want them to use it. We don't want to be afraid of that, because if they don't like what you have to say, like, they're not going to hire you anyway. So we want to just get them off your list. As your list grows, you're paying for everybody that's on your list. I know it's free in the beginning with most email services, but these days I'm like psyched if somebody unsubscribes, because I don't want to be paying for them to sit on my list if they're not interested in what I have to say or what I have to offer.
Exactly. And if they're not opening your emails, if your list grows, they actually hurt your deliverability. So the people who actually want to read your emails going to have a harder time finding them, because you might end up in spam with too many people complain about your emails. So yeah, it's super powerful to have the right people on your list and taking care of the people on your list and kind of grooming them into like super fans.
So when I said, let's add 100 new email contacts to your list, you guys, I wasn't just talking about any old 100 email contacts. I was talking about the right email contacts. And again, we're going to be going through that training this June, and you can sign up for free at healthcoachpower.com/email. Now, let's say we've got that list. We've got, I don't know, dads in their 40s who like sports, and they like, have got that dad bod going on. Maybe that's our list. And we have, a couple hundred of them. Still, we're going to sit down, look at the blank screen and go, what am I going to write to them about today? But Michelle said that I should be communicating with my list. So, okay, I want to do it. Daniel, you do this for a living, right? So what's an easy way to find email ideas?
So like the easiest way is to figure out what people actually like, and or what they want to hear from you, and there are several ways to do that. As I said, I think I've dropped the hint somewhere like 10 minutes ago, was that usually as a health coach, you have the advantage that you're writing to your past self. So you've been in their shoes, like literally been in their shoes, which makes it so much easier, because you know how it feels like when the symptoms hit. You probably have a story or two to tell when I think I love one of your stories when you said you passed out in the subway. I think that's a very powerful story, and people can relate, like who suffer from the same things, they can relate, because that's what's it all about. Like people want to actually like relate to you, to your stories, to your problems, because the better you can actually describe what you've gone through, so what they're probably going through, the more they're going to trust you, and the more they're going to think you have the offer or the solution to their problems. So a really easy way is to think of like, how was it 1, 2, 3, 5 years back? Like the pains, like really like how your day was like how did you feel throughout the day? What were some like anecdotes you could tell, personal stories you could tell around that, and tie them to what you're offering. That's one thing. Another thing, which is really powerful and super easy, and nobody thinks about that, because I think it was Ryan Dice, who's like very famous marketer. He said, like email was the first social media platform, so to say. It's not just a one-way street, but like as marketers or people who work with email lists, we usually kind of forget that there's like another person on the other end, on the receiving end. So what you can do to find ideas to write about is actually just simply ask them. Just write an email and say like, hey, what's going on in your life? Like, what's the number one thing you're currently struggling with? Or if you had a magic wand, you can be like creative with that. If you had a magic wand, what would you want to get rid of like immediately? And people usually respond, and the responses are gold, because you actually know what your audience wants to hear from you, and you can take these answers and like find a story, or actually do a little bit of soft teaching, not too much, so people don't want to hear why those hormones are kind of acting up. They want to kind of get actual advice on like how to get rid of it, what are the next steps. And ideally, the final step is always reaching out to you, getting professional help, so to say.
What you just said reminded me, because yes, you can ask your list what do they want to hear about, what topics are interesting to them. And I remember getting that advice at some point early in my career and asking my list, and I didn't really get too many answers, and the answers I got were all kind of the same. But you said this: ask them what they would want to get rid of, ask them to complain. Right. So if they had a magic wand, what would they go? Poof, I could get rid of this problem. I could get rid of this symptom. I could get rid of this person, who knows. But asking someone to complain, I found to be so much more effective. So if you guys try that, it can feel like negative, and I know health coaches, we want to be positive, but it's just people are more likely to tell you more interesting things and useful things that they're struggling with if you give them a space to kind of vent a little
Get it
bit.
out.
Tell me about that thing that you never want to experience again. Boom, they're going to write back a paragraph. Helpful, right?
Exactly. And again, like tapping into your own experience is super powerful as well. So because like you should like picture the reader to go through your story and say like, that's so me, or oh yeah, I can definitely relate, or that's exactly what I'm going through. So you want to trigger these moments because they're open to say like, hey, I think Michelle or whoever's listening might have a solution for me. She can show me how to do it, how to get rid of it, how to feel better in a short period of time.
So, one of the projects that you have helped me with recently is writing these templated, done for you style emails. We did this for all the health coaches inside our spring 2024 fast track group. And I got to tell you, we're like about halfway, a little bit more than halfway through fast track right now. They love using your templates. Just last week here on the show, I was sharing about how our coaches have gone from, feeling too scared to write anything or just getting stumped, just feeling like overwhelmed, to really consistently, we're going to like week 9 now, consistently getting those emails out because they're starting with a template and they're gaining confidence every time that somebody replies to them or clicks the link and signs up for their webinar or whatever it is. They're taking an action based on that email and they're like, oh, I can do this. I can do it. I started with a template, but I can do this. So I'm thinking it's got to be pretty hard to write an email like what you did. You wrote emails that worked for so many of our fast trackers. I mean, they can customize it, of course. I've seen our coaches actually making just like small tweaks here and there for the most part. So what was that like for you, not being a health coach yourself? Also, most health coaches are women. So as a man, just being like not at all like us sitting down to write these emails. What was that like for you?
I actually kind of like it. I think that's one of the upsides of my job, to like really get into the head of other people, like how people think, like what they're struggling with. Obviously, this is usually secondary research. So, but yeah, it's a lot of fun because I'm like a stranger. I was a stranger to health coaching, anything health coaching, right? I know that like eating healthy and like regular exercise is good for us and stuff, but that's where it ended, kind of. So yeah, it was super exciting. And also I don't know, I think it's like a copywriter thing when you really like dig up like great stories, or like that's actually something you can do as well. Like if you're stuck with not knowing like what to write, like what people are experiencing, is to actually just Google it, look in forums, and then just see what people are complaining about. And then these are usually because like a lot of people who are in a lot of pain or have been in pain for so long, they really share their stories, and this really gives you like a complete picture of the people who are on your list. And that helped to come up with templates to see like because after some time you see the same responses that just like with different words but the same meaning, and then you can kind of get a clear picture of like 5, maybe 6 top struggles, pain points, however you want to call it, those people are going through.
So you like the challenge.
I do. It's also a challenge to write in the female voice.
And English, by the way. So you guys, Daniel, tell everybody. I mean, English is not your first language.
No, it's not.
So for every health coach listening who's like, I can't write an email. I mean, I know Daniel's a professional copywriter, but come on, he's a man. He knows nothing about health, really. Sorry. Just, I mean, he knows a little. And English is not his first language. So if he can write emails for health coaches to send out, I think you have a pretty good shot, you guys. Like, come on.
Absolutely.
No, I love what you've done with all those templates. And you know, health coaches get things like this from various sources where there's some sort of generic or templated copy. So in the case of like these emails, I wondered if you could just share a little bit about how we can best use something like that to be effective. I mean, obviously just copy and pasting somebody else's words, you know, it's a little bit weird to do that. So what would you recommend?
Yeah, so actually like using templates or getting inspiration from previously written copy is something that's really popular. I think that's a common thing in copywriting. It's called swiping. So when you start a new project, you usually look for things that have worked in the market quite well and get inspiration from that. And I think that's where templates are coming. And they're really handy for two reasons, because first, they give you an idea of what to write about, basically. So they've done the hard part of like giving you an idea you can run with and roll with and kind of make it your own. And they give you like a proven structure that helps you to not like get off track and like write too much and forget the call to action, stuff like that. But again, like this is about usually, I mean, you can, I mean, for your done for you templates, you can do that obviously, but you should always try to make it your own. Because, for example, if I think we've given you a story or two in the done for you templates. If you have a similar story, replace it with yours, because just to make it your own. If, for example, like one call to action was maybe signing up for a wait list and you don't have wait lists, or you don't have like one-on-one coaching slots open, just use it, like exchange the call to action. It's more like it's like a guideline. It's more like something that gives you a little bit of like direction, but it's nothing set in stone. You can do with it what you want as long as you follow the structure. And if there are words or sentences in it that feel unnatural to you, that might even like bug you, because I don't know if it's just the writer thing, but I don't use particular words, like you don't use words. I think your listeners, everyone's got some words that trigger some negative emotion or that make them just like feel icky, or yeah, that's the things that you should exchange to make them feel like your own. Use the structure, use the idea, sometimes even use the structure, and maybe this idea sparked another idea you can take and make it like about a completely different topic, but just use the structure because it works. I think that's the main advice.
I got it, you guys. You know what it's exactly like? It's like when we give suggested meal plans to our clients, because you know we are not allowed to like prescribe things or tell people what to eat, but we can give them like an idea of like, hey, your meal plan might look something like this. And then you know what you do when you see something like that is you're like, well, I hate fish, so I'm not gonna make that recipe, but I'll make something else with like lemon and coconut. And you know, I'm allergic to that food right there, but I'll swap something out, and before you know it, it becomes your own. So that's very similar to what you can do with done for you copy. And Daniel, I love the way that you have also given us like in those templates little instructions, like come up with your own story about something that happened, you know, at this point in your life or whatever. So and those are the areas where the health coaches are able to, you know, bring some of their own personality forward. So I just wanted to share that with everyone because I know there are lots of different done for you materials out there. And it doesn't mean that you're like doing a bad job. It's actually, like you said, totally normal in copywriting to use something as a template, something as a inspiration to kick off your own ideas. So that's another way to just make it a little bit easier. And whether you guys are starting your list from scratch or you already have a list going, let's add more email contacts to that list with my signature list building system. It happens this June 2024, and it's entirely free. You can go sign up right now at healthcoachpower.com/email. And Daniel, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Michelle.
See you
Really
soon.
enjoyed it. See you soon. Bye bye.